Hello everyone. Today we are supposed to finishing up our 10 weeks and our final parallel project, which very excited. It would have been great if we could have evolved from week 1 into week 2 into week 3 and kept building. But it appears that right around week 3 into 4 into 5, the building stopped for my website and I wasn't ever ready to get back on track. I couldn't get it back to where it was. And reaching out for help really didn't help. I tried to contact professor, tried to contact a lot of other people, the dean, the head of the department, and still couldn't get back on track. But what we did come up with was some basic understanding of what we were trying to be doing if we were going to ever create a web page. And I think that's what CCU was really trying to do, was just create a base foundation if you ever wanted to start going more into this field. CCU's program for CIT is not to become an expert in one field. It's to allow you to check out and maybe find a niche that you are really comfortable with and that you want to pursue. Some of us might have been comfortable with Python or C++ or C# or Java or HTML5. One of those might have piqued your interest. My interest is based on computer networking, and so the next class that's coming up with Cisco Design Networking will really pique my interest, and that's where I'm going to keep going down. But what we've come up with in week 1 through 3 was some of these pages, like the journal page for myself, where you could order a journal, you could order a sobriety calculator, you could order a t-shirt, you could also drop in your email address so we could send you a receipt, and then you could also have a comments right in here if you were satisfied or dissatisfied. And then as we were evolving, then it broke down into some prices, and this was all great for helping me understand how to really build a website. But there was some breakdown in between weeks 3, 4, 5, 6, and how to keep files separate and how to keep them all intact. I think that would be a great starting class for week 1. Instead of diving right into discussions, let's talk about how we're going to separate our file folders for every week. And I think that would be a great class in itself. And I think that there would be some really good tutorials to help students understand, hey, in week 1 when we're building this, it tells you in the book you're going to be building CSS style sheet 1, and you're going to name it just like that. But what it doesn't tell you is that every chapter in the book that goes on tells you to label your CSS style sheet the same way, CSS style sheet. But then when you're trying to access that style sheet for that particular thing, then it kind of gets confused because you have the same style sheet named for 5 or 6 chapters. And I think that would be a great starting point for this class, is if we could break down how we're going to be saving some of the project and why we're going to be saving it that way. But that's for the future use of all the students that are going to be coming through here at CCU. It's going to be a successful program, and I'm really encouraged by the leaps and bounds of realms of understanding that I've come up with just in the past couple 10 weeks, 11 weeks since we had a little bit of a break. Earlier, we had a drop down built, and again, this was looking all good. I had a green page, I had my picture up on it, I had everything all in order, but at some point during these sessions, the saving of the files broke down my web page, and it was never able to get back to the way it was, which led me to understand why you save a portion of your format and you save it in a different file folder, somewhere completely different, whether it's on your desktop or whether it's on a scan disk or whether it's on a hard drive away from your computer, whatever you got. Like, go ahead and save the successful parts of your stuff, and then that way if something does happen, like in my case, then I'd be able to revert back and grab that, and then I'd be able to present it in a better fashion. But learning is part of this story. As you can see on this one, we went from here, dropped down with no pictures, no words or anything, and then we got into here where there was some words. Now the picture is missing here and here, but the pictures are in the file, so I don't understand why they're not pulling, unless they don't understand what file to pull from, which we've already talked about, and how to understand that and going more in depth in knowledge and being concerned with that on a weekly basis, not just being concerned with the way that we might rant or rave or talk about our frustrations at CCU. They would be providing us more insight as they looked into our files and was like, oh, well, this is where the breakdown happened, Anthony. This is where you broke down the page, and this is why it's looking the way it is. Because that would really help me understand as a student where I need to fix things, because I think that's one of the main areas that CCU left out in all of the classes that I've taken in CIT for programming. Anything in Python or C++ or C# or HTML. Anytime there was an issue, there was no way to fix it. Nobody out there to help you understand how to fix it. And a lot of the answers I got were go to YouTube and find that. But I just don't believe that there's an exact answer for what I'm looking for. And the other important fact is, if I don't know what I'm looking for, how would I know where to search? And now if I had years long to produce this, or if I was Neo from the Matrix and I could drop down in a blue pill or a red pill and go down that certain rabbit hole and I could really understand things, then that would be awesome. But I don't. You know, I live here on Earth, and this is how people learn. They learn by somebody who's in a higher power, which would be a professor. They would be giving feedback on each week's session. Not, hey, this looked good, or giving me the same grade throughout. 63.57 out of 70. 63.57 out of 70. And the rubric clearly states inside of our discussions that we don't need to go back in and have the conversation, that we only need to have 3 interactions with our students. So not giving us 25 out of 25 in that is a downer, but that's okay. We all learn from it. We started answering more and more. We started having a better discussion, but that's why in class is so much more realistic to the world than online. So into the index 3 right here, see I have my picture here and then I have my words up here, but then I lost some other pieces right here. But what I did learn about our SEO integration and optimization would be, what are some keywords that would help me become more relevant in the search for addiction. In the search for addiction, there was 1.12 billion related articles that popped up. Just saying that is an astounding number. If you want to be relevant, and to put that into perception, if you wanted to be relevant in India, as somebody, because their population is well over 1 billion, if you wanted to be relevant in India, how would you be relevant? How would you stand out among the rest of everybody that lived over there? That is the key ingredient. And what I found is that you don't need to be so direct and relevant in your one web page, but you can grab and steal shamelessly from other people's web pages to build yours and start to gain more credit or more numbers, so that way the algorithm fits you in. And the way that you do that is to obviously start off with some good keywords. You want to have all these keywords built up. You want to have, for mine, it would have been addiction. It would have been addiction counseling. It would have been addiction hotlines. It would have been addictions near me, addiction counseling near me. It would have been zip code posts. But there would also been backlinks to the definition. How do you know? And then snippets that would pop up and explain, not only here's my page, but here's what's going to come along with my page. You're going to have a definition. You're going to have the national hotline so you can get a hold of somebody. You're going to have addiction and recovery centers on there. And you're going to have locations near you. And you're going to have all this relevant, that's the key word, relevant information on your web page. I know that we covered a lot of material in the last 10 weeks. And it would be hard for anybody to just come in and say, all right, I'm going to build a web page and I'm going to start here. But there was enough information for me to be at least having fun in the first couple of weeks, and then it kind of deteriorated. But I do appreciate everything that was going on inside of this class. As you can see in the next form, it was completely spaced out, and this is how it was before I was able to really dive into some of the PHP files that we did. But would have been nice if we could have had some more practice on how to link this to a server and how we would read and write to that server for all of our end users coming to that. And even if it would have just been one end user, or reading log files. I know that we tried to get that in the VDI environment, and then after I turned in my assignment at 5 a.m., there was another email that came out later in the afternoon while I was at work, and I didn't have access to my book, where it was stated to use the log files out of that book. But I didn't have that, and I didn't get off until later after 1 o'clock in the morning. So not a big deal, but I do appreciate that this class was trying to do something better for us, and that they're going to be building on it in the future. I have direct belief that CCU is going in the right direction here. I know that with enough feedback from everybody, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, that somebody's going to gather that information, because that's what we do here in CIT, is we're a bunch of data miners. We're going to gather that information, and we're going to use it for our benefit. Well, that's me for the day, everybody. It's been enjoyable. I want you to have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless.